Avengers Infinity War is now in theaters, and you've probably already seen the film, but I'm going to say this right now, no spoilers in this review, so rest assured, you're fine. The story for this film is, you probably already know that too. A bunch of superheroes get together and they have to stop Thanos. Simple as that. But, it's simple, but is it well done? That is the question that I will answer. For starters, let me just say the positives of this film. Thanos is a solid villain. I am not saying he is a good or even great villain. I think he's a solid villain. I think people are so used to Marvel villains being so one-dimensional and forgettable that to see someone that is slightly memorable and actually more powerful than, like Loki, which, low standards as it is, it builds up the hype. And that's why so many people love Thanos. Thanos, yeah, you get some backstory to him. And yeah, it is interesting to see where he's coming from. And you can see where he's coming from. You're kind of crazy if you agree with it, but, different perspectives, which is cool. But I think he was solid. I will say he is entertaining. Josh Brolin did such a good job portraying him. And yeah, that's one of the main positives. The heroes, we all know and love them. So it's like the type of thing where there's not much arc to them, but they're entertaining. You have an ensemble cast that gets utilized across the board. There's 60 plus characters. So it's hard for them all to get screen time. But when they do get screen time, it is pretty cool. And to have all these heroes in one film together, that's pretty cool. And it's never been done before. Avengers in 2012, it was cool to see a bunch of superheroes together, but this is a huge level. 60 plus superheroes. Who knows? 10 years from now, Marvel might add Fantastic Four to it and X-Men to the Avengers, but for now, it's pretty cool. And I think that's why so many people are flocking to theaters, because that part of the film has never been done before, having so many people on this screen. I also really liked how you got a healthy dosage of Wakanda. I didn't love Black Panther, but I have to say I find Wakanda interesting, and so for a large part of the film taking place there, and to hear the theme from said area, it's pretty cool. And I enjoyed the fact that this film was never dull. That's one thing I can highly praise this film. It was never dull. It's, I think, 156 minutes, and not 1 minute felt like it was slow. It just constantly gained my attention. Unfortunately, though, this is probably when people are going to, try and find me and slit my throat and everything. But here's the thing. Avengers Infinity War, it's okay. It's just okay. And I know, I got a duck for tomatoes now, but, it's just a very okay film, especially from a filmmaking perspective. I have to say, yes, the scale for this film is pretty cool. It's cool to see some shots from, the cinematography department get utilized. But for the most part, the filtering of the cinematography, the way it was shot, overall was just very bland, as well as the score. Yeah, I mentioned the Wakanda theme, but that's a score from another film, Black Panther, which I praised for being well shot and having an excellent score. Two things that Marvel films have always had problems with. But in Infinity War, it's as if they're just going back to the same old problems, except for the villain, which is slightly above average. That's a big problem, though, for me, because as someone that enjoys witnessing filmmaking, especially when it's a high art, such as Blade Runner 2049 or something like that, to see a film that's $300 million and to have it not be as well shot as it could have been, or have a score that is just very forgettable, honestly. Alan Silvestri is a good composer, too. He did Back to the Future score, which is a great score, but this score is very forgettable. And honestly, it doesn't really enhance the scenes. And the action, I know a lot of people that are praising it, and that's good for them. There are one or two action scenes that I thought were kind of neat, but not all the way neat. I thought that there was just a sense of, everything's going to work out. That, hey, this is the type of thing where it's a two-parter film. So it's half of a film, so their resolution won't be fully fulfilled until the end of obviously the second part, which is coming out next year. Now, hear me out. I think the editing also, which is part of filmmaking, was just off. There were a lot of scenes. I mentioned, yes, it's a fast-paced film, but the editing and the tone of the film just felt off to me. Not in a, experimental way. It was more of it felt like they didn't fully think it through with how to go about things. Because the first 10 minutes of the film, I was like, oh, shoot, this is serious. And then all of a sudden, they start cracking jokes. They started trying to crack jokes and then get serious, and it just felt wrong, because this is a culmination of 10 years in the making, pretty much. And you have people cracking jokes when it's the end of the world. I get it. People utilize humor during stressful situations, but so much so when the world is coming to an end pretty much because of Thanos. I have problems with that. I do. I understand that some people are going to be like, well, you're looking too deep into it. But at the same time, I can't help but look at that, because every Marvel movie's been doing that. It really irked me with Thor Ragnarok, especially because it's like you have all these deaths that happen in that movie, and you forget about them because they are utilizing so much humor that it's kind of like, oh, someone died. And that's the problem with this film as well. The stakes don't feel as high as people say they are, because the humor, I feel as though, bogs it down. Don't get me wrong, some of the humor worked, but at the same time, I couldn't help but think, is this necessary? Is this actually necessary? I understand there's 60 plus characters on the screen, and they all go about things differently. They're not all serious, but is it necessary? Is it really necessary to have humor every chance when there's a dark thing that's going on? I don't know. I really don't, especially in the final act when everything is starting to get serious. I'm like, this is a trope of a comedy film. You could argue that this is like a comedy film and then it gets serious at the very end. And I'm like, doesn't work for comedies, and it certainly won't work for this because it's doing the same trope as a comedy film. So for me, it's a shame. It didn't work. Did the ending work? Yeah, for me personally it did. But at the same time, it was so predictable. You can ask my friends. I predicted the ending a month or so ago. Very predictable, but it still worked for me because it was still kind of hey, we put some effort in this ending, and it was kind of a surprise for a lot of people. And I liked that, hey, the ending, you could tell that there's a lot of effort being put into it. And I'm not saying the entire film that I can't tell there wasn't effort being put into it. Obviously there was. It's a $300 million production. But I can't get past the flaws. I also have a major flaw with a certain character doing something towards the end. It was just kind of like plot convenience. And that's the thing. There's a lot of plot convenience in this film that just kind of made me shake my head. And I understand there are going to be a lot of people that watch this review. I mean, maybe not a lot of people watching the review, but the people that do, they're going to say, well, you're looking too deep into it. And on top of that, it's just a Marvel film. And hey, this film did take risks. But for me, from a filmmaking perspective, it really didn't. It really didn't. It didn't break any new ground in that category. And for anything, it was dull and uninteresting in that category. But from an entertainment perspective, it was passable. And for me, that's why Avengers Infinity War gets a 3 out of 5 star rating, which, yeah, I've given to a lot of Marvel films, especially as of late. But that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy this film. I did. I can't get past the flaws. I know I've said that already, but I need to emphasize it. But anyways, if you've seen Avengers Infinity War, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I promise, if you like the film, that's fine. If you didn't, that's also fine. I'm just somewhere in the middle where I'm indifferent to it, and I think that's fine, just like everyone's opinions. But if you haven't done so already, guys, hit the subscription button, notification bell, and catch you guys later.